Okay, so if we can figure out how to get O1 to tell us what is important to do, what are the things we should bet the company on and which things we shouldn't, not just a one-off but an ongoing thing, then that seems of value to all enterprises. Being able to have a standard way to reason through all the things you think are important and then tell you what's actually important and what you should be pursuing is valuable, but it also actually requires a social network or coordination, because if you had, say, 1,000 teams that were all using O1 to guide them, they might come up with the right answer in isolation, but they'd still collide because they didn't talk.
Right. And you'd get not only collisions, but you would get, I'm creating a new word for this,
Probably.
generations where you combine two ideas and a third is obvious to pro or an AI.
I think also if everyone's using o1-pro as the project manager or as the setter of the North Star, the setter of the head mark, if everyone's using that, the chance of a collision goes way up, because first of all, I suspect O1 thinks in buckets. Like if you ask 1,000 different questions, you'll end up with 10 consistent buckets. And
Yeah,
so
its bucketization has definitely gone
yeah,
up, hasn't it?
yeah. So you'll end up sort of smacking into other people more likely than you would have if you'd just used your own human chaos to steer.
Yeah.
But second of all, your collisions will also be higher, because if you've logically reduced all of the other possibilities down, now your choices are literally like half a dozen, and you all have that same half a dozen. So that's another form of bucketing or a comb filter that's going to make everyone
Right.
collide. And so that sort of seems to point at having the ability to socially reason so that we don't smack into each other, and to be able to use O1 as the thing that tells us what we're doing. No one's talking
And
about that, but it seems like if you could do
and
that,
informs, randomly there's this other team doing something very similar, but not
yeah,
exact.
yeah, but also being able to recruit, because people are looking for a team to join, and they're like, man, everything's changing so fast, I don't know what to do, and then O1 helps them find their place, right?
Yeah, yeah, but this is a bit of a side point, but teams are also dynamic. Teams are based on people turning up,
Yeah,
so it's not an employee we're talking about.
yeah. So,
Employees actually are, bad. Yeah,
so what are we gonna do then? What are we gonna do? Because
that is a good question, Will West. What are we going to do? Well,
it's
um,
dangerous to get excited and be like, cool toy. Like, because, I mean, o1-pro is the coolest toy that I've ever got my hands on. Like, it is the coolest thing by none. But that's not enough. Like,
well,
okay,
no, because
now what?
everyone with $200 a month has got the same tool.
Yeah, and it also points at what's coming. I mean, GPT-4 versus o1-pro, 1 year's difference, mate.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Okay,
So what do
so
we do? What do we care about? What's valuable?
I think what's valuable is okay. I'm just going to throw some stuff on the table because the truthful answer is I don't know.
Okay.
Now, what do we have? We have consistently been ahead of the next drop by a number of days, weeks, months, whatever. And so, what does that mean? That means we're thinking in the same way as these guys with their billions who are just churning this stuff out.
No, that's wrong. The
Okay.
objective answer to that is that how AI needs to land is deduction. And all that we're doing is we're deducing how it's going, and
No, no.
we
Sorry, go ahead. I disagree. Or I might have misspoken. Um, the
all right, I suppose it doesn't matter to have a third round of argument about it. You were really just trying to lean on this to to
Yeah.
build up to something.
What I was
Yeah.
saying, what I was trying to say is, we're probably on uh, the top of the surf wave right now. We've got,
Well, I mean, that's that's rude because we
but
don't know that. But what's your point with that? I guess.
no. Well, I started off by saying I don't know, so I'm just throwing
Okay.
stuff on the table.
Okay.
See
So
what
you're
throwing stuff
saying
again.
what have
See
we
what
got? Well, we're
see what
definitely
sticks.
immersed in AI world. So there's nothing, like I speak to people these days, they don't even know that o1's arrived, let alone o1-pro. So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, sure, but that's just awareness. Number two, we seem to have a load that we can put on it that I'm not sure everyone has yet. I think if everyone worked really hard, they could come up with a load like that. Um, we are also in a very privileged position that we can actually spend all day on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of rare in itself.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of experience with the feeling of what LLMs are like. Like we understand intuitively what's happening inside of them, which is sort of like knowing how to program. But even programming wasn't just reading a book. You got to do it a lot, and then you get a sense for what's
Yeah,
good
yeah.
code, bad code, all that. Like we have that sense with LLMs now.
Experience. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we got to we can sense it. We're conversant with the system.
Uh-huh.
That's valuable. We know that there's a massive gaping hole for naps. It's starting to be sort of touched on by MCP. Um, we know
Yep,
that blockchains don't integrate with the software world correctly or nicely. We know that tokens poison blockchains,
yep.
where we didn't really know that before. We just suspected it. What
So
else?
what are we doing?
What we're doing? And is it a valid concern to say, okay, I've seen o1-pro in action. I recognize when it's smarter than me.
Mm.
It is not just a little bit smarter. It's like it's every time smarter, and whatever it says makes logical sense. Like it no longer it's like it has an internal logic model. I've not once made it say sorry. Like I've never ever caught it out. I've never caught it. I've used this thing all day every day since it landed. All day every day, morning, night, thinking about things to put in, refining things, regenerating things, all that. Not once have I been like, "Hey mate, you said this, and then you said that. What gives?" Which is a common occurrence with 4.0. Not a single thing. I've been
Yes.
taking code that it wrote, like 2 pages worth at a time, and it runs
Yeah,
start to
yeah.
finish. It runs like 4.0
But
was not
yeah,
that.
yeah. The yeah, I absolutely agree. And well, as you
So
know, it's so on.
so because of that, like overzealously was sort of paying homage or respect to the machine, but the consequence is that I no longer trust my own decision making ability to decide what's best for, I don't know, my life for one, but second, for the Dreamcatcher, and for the Artifact blockchain, because I want to hear it from o1. I don't want to hear it from you, me, or anyone else. I want to be able to follow o1. Like I want it to tell me what of all the things that I've chucked at it and all the questions and prods and doubts that I've given it. I want it to decide or reason with me or tell me what's the best thing, because if I'm following that, I trust that o1 can defend my actions against any onslaught. Anybody, anywhere, any human could argue with o1 and be like, Tom made a bad decision here. And it would defend me. It'd be like, nah, mate, A, B, C, D, Y, therefore, blah, blah, blah. Go stuff yourself, right? The only thing that's going to correct o1 is o2. Maybe, right? And even that's a maybe, because the smartest entity on the planet, there's only so many moves on a chessboard. And provided you understood the rules right, once you can, there is like, if we assume that there's a perfect move, what's even God themselves going to make, right? It's like that move, you
Right.
know?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what's,
yeah.
you don't need anything more than that.
So I think for the time being, and I'm less and less certain this is going to last, but for the time being, O1 gives options. And number one, being able to talk to o1-pro is a skill. You're right. You need to be conversant about how to actually use this.
Yeah, and you need to understand what it does and doesn't know and all that. But it's much better at it's much uh better calibrated. Like it knows its own limitations and it
Right.
knows when it's sure
Right.
about something.
And this is when back in June we were talking about the November drop. I think this is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they decided to roll it into this marketing 12-day thing. Um, so
I love
okay.
it. I love it. Like these guys
Oh,
are so good.
I don't
But yeah,
because
I mean, you
every
gotta.
fucking day there's another thing to.
It's great.
Okay.
It's great.
Uh,
And but you gotta also think like internally. Surely they are sitting there with o1-pro under API mode, asking it what they should do. Surely.
well, which probably is why they've got. I've never heard of any company do 12 drops day after day, and each drop being something
Substantial,
substantive.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's this
yeah.
is you know and yeah,
And
sure.
day one was like the greatest intelligence on earth for
Yeah,
like
and I've
the
still got.
highest price consumer subscription I ever heard of.
Yeah, yeah, and look at Sora. They cannot buy GPUs fast enough
Yeah.
in order to meet the demand on Sora. I still have £5, good Scots pounds, on the table. Should you wish to take the bet that the 12th day is going to be the API drop, but we'll see.
I'll take that bet.
Now,
I'll
you
bet it's
take that
not.
bet.
Yeah, I'll bet day 12 is not the API.
Well, how about we widen it and
No,
that
no, no. The bet's done. No, no,
the
no,
AP,
no,
the
no, no,
API
no,
the
no.
API is
The
part
bet
of the
is
12.
set. The bet.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. I should have. It is part of the 12.
the API is
Got.
part of the 12.
Yeah.
I'll bet you. Yeah, I'll bet you £5 that it's
All
not
right.
part of the 12.
All right.
Mm.
Okay. So the right. The point being is there is. I think we're sitting on a pile of gold which we don't actually use.
Right, but the thing that stops us from spending it because we got time, we got resources in the bank, we got experience, we're like schooled up hard
Yeah.
on this
Yeah.
stuff. We got
Yeah. Yeah.
software in the pipe, we got capabilities, and we got like just opportunity trying to break down the door. And we're sitting here being like,
What do we do?
what's the right move? Because there are wrong moves here, and wrong moves are to make a move that, like, I don't know if you've ever been hydrofoiling, but it feels like a very delicate balance where we get to ride the wave so long as we don't dip too far.
Yeah, I have, and
And you can,
I got totally wiped out because I
yeah,
was an
yeah, yeah,
experience.
yeah, yeah. And so any activity that we take that isn't like cumulatively building to accelerate us further is a loss,
It
right?
feels, um, I don't know. To be honest, I'm getting more rocked and anxious than I was
I'm
yesterday
about
or
as
the day
anxious,
before.
and I'm about as anxious as I've ever been right now. This
Yeah,
is the most anxious because for me, the bottom just fell out of software. We talked about it and we said it was coming, and we even laughed about it because we were like,
yeah,
we
yeah,
know
yeah.
how to make
Remember
money of it,
last
right?
November,
Yeah,
like
and then
almost a year ago. Like,
and then it
yeah.
arrived. It actually arrived, and I was able to publish software modules from half an hour's worth of prompting, and I'm like, oh, that's
And it's only going to get better with context. You
yeah.
can just ask for something to happen.
Right. And then
Um,
at some point, the human detaches, and you're like, what is the human doing anymore? But then we hit this other realm, which is like, well, reasoning. Reasoning's
right.
hard.
Okay. So here's my best shot at it. And I'm getting more and more queasy about the basilisk. Um, The best shot is arbitrage between people who haven't spent 14 hours a day using this thing
Right. Yeah, but
all the
you
way
could
through.
argue that that's the only thing that's ever been saleable, really, is
Sure.
information gradient. Even though you
Yeah.
talk about wanting to kill information gradient, here you are proposing to
Wanting
trade in it.
to actually exploit it. Yeah, yeah. That's precisely what I'm saying.
Right. So after
Um,
you've finished your nice warm cup of hypocrisy there, um, I think that the
Thank you
issue
very
really
much.
is that
Sorry.
there's all these options,
Uh-huh.
um, and then hey, just on that though, like the actual foundation of the Dreamcatcher is an exploitation
Of the information
of the
gradient,
information
exactly.
gradient, yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
it exploits it for the purposes of leveling it, as opposed to exploits it and deepens it or maintains it. So that's a
Right, right, right. And we
right.
were yeah, yeah. Go on.
Information gradient is value. It is
Yes.
value, yeah, but you can
Uh,
make a mechanism that extracts value and then widens the gap, and that seems to be the true corruption of knowledge-based
s-
work.
and widens. Yes, yes,
Right?
absolutely.
When you charge someone for an information gradient that you hold, and then you use what they paid you to widen the gap, so
Yeah,
that
use
they have to keep paying.
TLAs and jargon, etc. You're
Yeah,
widening the gap, and
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And actually, what we're talking about is right now there is a
So we
gradient
want to make
is a
money
rate of
on
change.
leveling. We want to make money on leveling the information gradient. We want to exploit the information gradient, and we'll charge for leveling it. That's what we're saying,
Yeah,
right? Okay,
yeah, I think we are.
okay,
And also the information gradient. This is quite important. The information gradient. Any gradient is an infinitesimal point which looks at the rate of change at that point. Yeah, infinitesimal gradient roughly. Um, and what we're seeing is the rate of change is going through the roof now because they're using their own tools to
yeah,
improve their own tools,
yep.
which is what we're doing. And so we've got the possibly the largest information gradient that anyone's seen.
In the history of the world,
Yeah.
the information gradient has never been it's never been better, actually. Um,
It's
okay,
hard to think of another time that the rate of change based
yeah,
on, which is a time based,
yeah, that's
obviously.
right, that's right. So we're living in a time, right now, that information gradient feels like every other information gradient, which is an S curve. It's just that this one has been so sharp that it almost looks like a right angle. Like
Well,
it's like
that's the problem on an S curve. If you don't know the future, on the kind of up part of the S curve, you don't know when it's going to finish.
right.
But
But typically, and the S curve's never been this steep.
I agree. Um,
So what
and
to do?
but we do know that it does peter out now.
It has, like all things, it has ceilings and it stutters and all that. But
But
what's a
what
girl to
what
do, Maxwell? What? What?
I'm starting to think that okay, so if we could I mean the rate of change even over the last 2 weeks. Uh,
Yeah, it made me ill. It made me ill. Like it changed so fast that I
yeah, yeah,
actually,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
sometimes I felt sick and was like, this is too
Exactly,
much. This is
exactly.
too much.
Now we're getting incoming, uh, which is getting close to a wave of incoming
Right.
of
So
companies.
number one, we would say we need some kind of automation powered ingestion. Right. We need to be able to use o1 to filter out, categorize, and start drafting responses. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
actually say there's a zero basement, which is the knowledge structure, and I will um, hold on to that because
Well, I don't even know what you're talking about, so I can't take it off you. What are
sorry,
you talking about?
sorry. I'm talking about what we've been talking about: definitions, renders.
So reasoning. Is it acceptable to bundle that whole thing up as reasoning?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Which is basically knowledge management
Right,
using AI.
and
Where
I think that's Aladdin's lamp. that nobody else,
No,
as far as I've seen,
no.
has.
That's
You
a
don't think?
gemstone nearby.
Where's the gemstone?
That's just something of use, but it is not. It is not the dream catcher. Doesn't help
Okay,
us
all
to
right.
argue about that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I think it's sufficient for just one person to say that's not the lamp, because the lamp is hidden. The lamp is very hidden, and
All
if
right.
even one person is like that's not it, then it's definitely not it. If there's any doubt, then it's true.
Okay, well, we'll see it when we know it.
We'll know when we see
We'll
it.
know
I'm
when we
telling
see
you,
it.
that's
Yeah.
not it.
Okay. But I do think knowledge structure is
A foundational pillar.
necessary.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we agree that blockchain, in particular, a decentralized high compute capacity blockchain that is tokenless, is essential, right?
Yes. And then what?
AI running on chain, where its training data is on chain and its execution is on chain, and it is in charge of commercial activity, is
I,
on the path, right?
ideally, but also
Ideally, what do you mean ideally?
we also need to incorporate AIs running on a decentralized AI network, which themselves are black box. Their training data doesn't need to be on chain, but it would be great if it was.
Oh, okay. So like so like the llama range of models, where we're like we can run it on chain, so we can trust it, but we don't know the training data, so it's sort of like a little bit murky, but we're okay with that, right?
That's right, but even then, you can derive from actually using the model.
So yeah, so long as it's repeatable.
Yeah,
If it does something weird, like
yeah.
keeps on siphoning off a scent
Okay,
every
so
so often, you're like, who trained this thing? Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So we got two things there. All right.
So repeatable AI. Um, there's a social network aspect that is the key to the whole thing, right? Because all those things we spoke about so far are just they're just technical niceties, and if all the
Yeah,
humans
yeah.
if all the humans ended,
Table stakes to what we're
yeah,
talking about.
yeah, if all the humans died, you could still have those things. So that's not the dream catcher. The dream catcher, I think, is sort of implying that dreams come from people.
Oh
And
yes.
a friend of mine was saying to me, he was like, I think dreams are mechanical. And I'm like, well, look, I can't prove you wrong, but I'm betting that you're wrong.
I don't even understand what he means by mechanical in this instance.
Well, he's saying that innovation, what we consider innovation, can be entirely done with a generative AI system. He's saying that there's nothing special about what people do.
Yeah, but that's our big bet, isn't it? Though.
That's the bet, right? And so we
Yeah.
should be very explicit that that is the bet, because if it's not the bet, what would our actions look like? Because you gotta place bets in the world, or you'll never win, right? You can't
Yeah.
just sit back and be like, "See, I told you so." That's what
Yeah.
happens when you follow your dreams. You fall on your face. Like you can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
our bet is that humans have within them innovation that is essential to the AIs being able to function at optimum rate. And we're trying to put in place a net that catches all the sparks by way of coordinating everyone and rewarding everyone and making sure that the sparks keep coming, because we're like the sparks are what keeps the system going. If that was not the case, I'm sure we can imagine a world where it isn't, but my instinct says that if that was the case, the best bet is to not spend any more money or time and just wait until that machine gets made. And that's it. But the bet that we're taking is saying that that machine cannot be made. You need humans in the mix because they have novelty, and therefore we need to build that system in place because it doesn't even look anywhere close to being present.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a
Yeah.
scary bit, because I mean, if we're wrong, we'll know for sure, but that's fine.
Well,
If we're
that's the whole point of bets, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. If we're right, then I think that we will have done the world a service if we're right.
I think so.
it might not be possible to ever know, but it could be that it may be 100 years until the black swan occurs. Maybe. Who knows? Who
Right.
knows?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's
But
all.
I
The
guess what we're betting on is innovation. You know, you could easily call it inspiration. You could
Yeah,
even call it the muse if you're into your Greek classics.
I'm not, but yeah.
Um, okay, is inherently something that's not derivative.
Yeah. And as to why, I sort of don't care. And I think the bet can be narrowed even more, where we're saying that in at least the short term, like the next decade, the Muse is not going to be mechanized within the next decade.
I
Because,
agree. I
yeah,
agree. And if you listen to Roger Penrose, he's saying, "Nah, this route is going to get so far. The S curve for what Professor Penrose is saying is has a definite ceiling, which is below that of which real kind of forward-looking inspiration lies. And there's all sorts of reasons.
yeah. And I
Uh,
just want to also note that all the examples of ingenuity up until, you know, a few years ago were all examples of human ingenuity that didn't have AI to help them. And so what we're not accounting for is what types of ingenuity are we going to see from people once we have the AI being able to accelerate or explode or to like what we saw with the blockchain definitions. And you and I were both like, hot damn, that's what we've been talking about.
yeah.
But the AI did it. And so, you know, now we can innovate at an even higher level because we were accelerated or amplified by this bot. So, what types of innovations are humans going to come up with is the first thing to keep an eye on because that's unknown and unproven.
I mean, what's the output from that question? A list of types.
May I come back to that? And the second thing that's important to track is that the innovation that we've seen so far has only been the innovation that survived the low pass filter or the energy gap
Mm,
between I've got an idea and I've raised some capital in a corporate structure and I've
yeah,
survived for several years and made it to market, which doesn't include most of Africa, huge chunks of India. You know, China, I don't know what they're doing because behind their firewall, but the point is that those two unknowns, what happens when the world starts dreaming and
yeah.
innovating?
Africa is going to get rich. They're
They're
going to be a
smart.
superpower.
Like
In 100 years from now, there'll be a superpower. And
I haven't
in a
met
way,
a dumb African actually.
for years, for decades now, all the time I've been growing up and getting to this place, people think Africa is a basket, a basket case.
No,
It's really not. It's really not.
it's got a lot of horrible things going for it, like the fact that
You know,
survival of the
Belgium,
fittest. No.
fought
Like
the Congo.
survival of the fittest has been continuing to govern their improvement. You know, like all the Western cultures abandoned the survival of the fittest maybe 100 years ago, 50 years ago, but
Yeah,
Africa's still been evolving under those rules,
yeah,
and that's so they're you know
yeah.
they're
Yeah. I mean, it's no surprise to anyone that most of the online scams come from Nigeria. Of course, it would, because of
right.
exactly what you just said.
Right. And so, like, those things are something that should be captured or assisted. And I think the dream catcher is one solution to that problem. How do we get the world to dream? And how do we capture innovation that is amplified by AI? Um,
Okay, so
so, now
right,
back to your question. You were like, types?
yes.
What's that mean?
You're saying that there's various types of innovation that we're going through. We could list through the types, and it's like, hmm, don't know.
You mean like innovating in a business that currently uses email and spreadsheets versus innovating in a business that
Versus CERN. Yeah, all the way up. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Is it useful to bucket those?
Oh, absolutely. It seems like buckets are the only tool we have in this strange place we're in.
Really? I think combination is really useful. In the same
Well,
way that
no,
high-speed traders came from networking, which came from how to make fiber optics.
maybe, but that's quite advanced, right? And that certainly wasn't the first move that people made when the stock market went digital. So, or maybe it was, who knows. But the point I'm wanting to get at is that there are big, blunt, simple, valuable cases out there. There's a large number of businesses who are like the uncontacted tribes of the Amazon, where their primary bookkeeping service is some dude with a piece of paper, maybe has email, you know, those kinds of people, right? Those
Hmm.
places have overhead that we can capture.
So here's one way of doing it. So your original question, what are we doing? Uh, we're doing the Dreamcatcher. The Dreamcatcher is the flame front that allows innovation, which our bet is that humans innovate and spot things that can't be derived
Yep.
because AI is going to derive
Or
uh,
inferred, just to narrow down
or
the
inferred.
wording.
Oh yes, 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 yes. Thank you. That's a better word. Um, so that's our major bet. Now
Okay.
the
This is a big bet, actually. This is a big bet. That's quite a
it's ballsy, isn't it?
well, it isn't. It isn't. It's a very cutting, or it's a very partisan bet. It's like, do you have a soul or not? And you're like, I'll prove it. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure you could one way or the other. But the point is, like,
Well, to
it's a cutting bet.
take
It's a
Pascal's wager, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's a polarizing
um,
bet. It's a polarizing bet.
yeah,
So
if we're wrong, we're all going to be on universal income, and the AI is going to do everything for us, and we'll all
or
be
not, or not. I mean,
serfs basically.
yeah, it's.
Um,
I got to
but it's
confess, like, it's, if I was a pure AI, it's hard to imagine why I would keep the humans around, right? Because there's the dark side of it is, if the humans are of no use, they're certainly not of any benefit for.
I
All
disagree
right,
with that
look,
slightly, but
I
it doesn't
think,
matter. It
yeah,
doesn't
okay,
matter what.
okay. So the question,
Yeah.
what are we doing? What are we doing? Is it right for me to not trust our own judgment in the light of a machine that I believe can reason superiorly to me and to you without meaning you any insult?
And no insult intended, or expected. The answer is yes. I think.
That's the right move, right? To say that I don't trust my own.
What we've seen, right? Okay, so to boil it down, is if you know how to use this tool, which is what it is at the moment, um, you get to be Superman,
Sort
which is
of.
great. You
Sort
get
of,
to be.
yeah, no, but you get this weird feeling where you're Superman, and then you get to where you were trying to get to. Like, I was trying to get to making code that's good quality fast, and then I got there this week, and now I feel empty. What?
Oh, yes, but remember what we were saying 2 calls ago, that the real skill is the rate of. So if we say that, um,
No, no, finish
if
the
we,
sentence, please, 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 please. The summary.
Cool. Yes, please, yes.
You were saying it, and then before you jumped off into an example, you were like,
Oh,
several calls ago, we were saying that.
we're saying that the real key in an environment that allows um, uh, leverage, but because we're on this steep curve at the moment, we don't know where it's going to end up. The real key is what the rate of new ideas are. It's the rate of addition
So you
of
could
inspiration.
simplify that and say that it's the rate of learning that matters, right?
Um, not learning, but
Well,
yes,
for us, like
that's a necessary
our
prerequisite.
survival depends on how tightly we can hang on to the S curve so that it doesn't, because the S curve's currently doing a high G turn. Many
Yeah.
people fall off, right? Because as it gets steeper and steeper, different people depart at different points. They either get distracted, burnt out,
Yep.
bored,
Yep.
they can't keep up, they miss the news, something, 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 right? Some
Yep.
people hang on. We need to hang on. The only way I think we're going to hang on is by having a combination of an o1 reasoner that's guiding us or determining where to spend our days. And the second thing is an o1 watchtower that's crawling all the information and making us aware. Now, please allow me a minute. The crawler is important because right now we've been keeping up with what's new manually. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine, but as the turn gets steeper, that will become harder. And
Mm-hmm.
so we need crawling to make sure that it's coming in a clean, digestible format that's relevant to what we're trying to do. Okay. Second,
Mm-hmm.
the project reasoner is important because until now we've had our time constraints have been artificial or internally generated by a sense of panic from the both of us. But soon, what should be happening is that our time should be allocated very tightly by the reasoner so that we can basically clear our minds, clear our plates, clear our problems, and focus on the most valuable problems of our time. Now, to do that, you need to know and trust that the o1 watchtower is keeping you informed. You need to trust that if we were driving a tank, you got to trust the guy that's on the scope that he's keeping a watch so that the guy down in the engine bay, like we need to organize ourselves to be much more efficient in the way that we use our time. The only thing that stays constant during any kind of S curve event is the amount of hours in a day that each person has. And so we need to be able to have tools in place that use ours maximally. Those two things are missing.
I think that's inarguable. Question is, those tools we don't have yet,
Feels
unless,
close. Feels close.
yeah, oh, I was saying unless we just go with o1-pro, and on these calls,
Yeah,
for
but
example, we're
like the
talking
API, the
o1-pro.
API is coming in a matter of weeks. The API is coming, and if it's not o1-pro, which I think they'd be mad to not give us API access to o1-pro. They'd be mad because they can make bank off it. I mean, we want to pay. So
Mm,
o1-pro, or at worst case o1, comes out in the API with tools, tool calls, sys prompts. We're off, right?
yeah.
Making the watchtower sounds like something that anyone else is trying to hang on during the high G turn wants that too, right? So the third implied thing that we're missing is we don't have a social network. We've got manual social networks of people we trust, but
Mm-hmm.
there's no mechanized thing. Like even if you look at the thing that you and I do each day, where I work during the day and I fling you little bits of information as notes that I pick up during the day that I think are good for you that I want to talk about later. You do the
Yeah.
same for me. But then it's like that needs to be a machine, and o1 should be doling out the messages accordingly,
I see what you're
and
saying. So the third thing is o1 saying, okay, so now you've got 100,000 smart guys, um,
even
and
just three, like even three would hurt us. Four would be deafening, right? Four
yeah,
people that have as much going on as you and me in the AI space would be not tractable. We need a
which is the
tool.
complexity issue. Which is the complexity issue.
Yeah, we need a
Um,
tool.
I agree. But also that tool can't be pull, has to be push. So it's
What?
not sufficient to have something like Slack,
What is Slack, a push or a pull?
Slack is yeah, it's a dump of information,
Is it a
and
push or a
it's
pull?
like, and then you can pull the information by doing a search.
So
Um,
you're saying that the information needs to be push.
yes, it's
Is
saying
a Facebook newsfeed a push?
it's an yeah, it is actually.
Is an email
Um,
inbox a push?
no,
Yes. Right?
absolutely not. No,
What?
no, no. An email inbox is just a raw, it's
No,
raw
if
data.
if yeah, if I got pushed information to my inbox that was like a summary of everything that happened in the world,
Oh no, that's just a method of ingesting that information into your monkey brain.
but isn't that a
You
push? All I was asking was to make sure I understood your concept of push.
sorry, by push, what I mean is o1-pro with sight of 100,000 people doing different stuff, saying, you know what, you should talk to this guy.
Okay, push and pull sounds unclear. I think maybe active moderation. So like
Active or passive? Yeah,
active,
yeah, yeah.
active
That's better.
information.
That's
Yeah.
better.
Okay.
That's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need a social network that's AI generated or AI curated. That network needs to have a watchtower function which crawls and processes information.
That just informs the number one.
Yeah. But number one is like a an active information processing engine tailored for each individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I should get up in the morning and I should get an o1 curated list of stuff that's happened overnight that I need to be aware of, and I can dig into it and chat with it and do
But
whatever I want.
but also have the so what. And the so what is, well, you've been working on this project.
Yeah, like
And
it can be
that happened
traced.
over there.
Yeah,
And by the way, there's this guy in the Philippines who's doing the same thing.
yeah, all those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, once that machine gets good, reading that feed should feel like watching the news did back in the 90s, where I felt like I was getting something from the news. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. We don't have the internet. What happened?
It's because it's curated. That's the
It was
difference. We
curated
don't
and
have
we
curated news, well,
anymore.
except for
Nah.
the
And
odd
it,
thing like BBC and so on. But mostly
yeah.
it's not curated.
And the curation is because the value is so low per subscriber, the curation level goes up to being national and global. And so we all end up, because no one wants to pay $5 to hear the local news, but we'll all put up with like 3 cents of ads to watch the global news. Like it's sort of steered us all
Oh,
towards global affairs, right?
can we talk about this for a second? Because I think you've hit on something there. So, local news is, or was, when I was growing up, hyper important because
Yeah.
you found out that your neighbor, Mrs. Miggins, had had a fire in her house, and then you go off and help her put her windows back in and clean her house out
Yeah.
after the fire. That
And
sort
you
of
had
thing.
classifieds and stuff. That's how people traded and how you found
Exactly,
each other.
exactly. Global news, I sit and look at, okay, so, right, Syria is just, whoa, it's flipped. It's like,
Yeah.
but there's no
Right.
action.
But it's global news with hyper localized ads, whereas it used to be hyper localized news with hyper localized ads.
Right, right.
Right.
And so what we're talking about is in that, in the Watchtower thing, it's saying, right, you don't have to spend 6 hours of your life watching YouTube and scraping for white papers and reading white papers or ingesting white papers and so on, because I know, I being the AI,
Yep.
I know what you've been doing, and I can say how this matters to you, but also I can infer saying you haven't thought of this.
Right. And you can also do all kinds of other algorithmic type things, like all your friends that you constantly match with are interested in this thing, so I'm going to bet that you're into it, and all that, right? So that if I may, that feels like a detail, though. We're arguing for the need for an existence of a
Yeah, but we've known that Dreamcatcher is um, possibly
We've known that we
the
needed
last
these
social
things.
network, isn't it?
Well, we known that we needed these things for a long time, but we've always been so bogged down on the next step, whatever that's been, that the toil has always meant that talking about the end was almost no point because so much needs to be done to get there that let's just gesture at it in the horizon. But
Right.
here we are with actually suddenly
With a
now we
magic
can,
wand. Yeah.
yeah, right. And now it starts to make sense to say, well, we can actually sit there and talk about what that thing needs to be. And I believe we can start to take our first steps there within the 1 to 3 week time frame. By the end of the
I
year, I think we can actually have a working sort of a prototype of it
kind
because
of don't see why not.
I've never understood how to code better than right now because I don't have
But
to.
also, also we've got already a very strong grasp on the how you store all this massive amount of information um, to allow an AI to actually make sense of it in order to do um, these recommendations. Hey, this guy over in the Philippines doing the same things, etc. Or the implications um, of Overwatch. Um, I'm kind of at the point on the knowledge structure. I'm thinking adding anything is actually going to be detrimental. So I sent over, I think I sent over a text earlier on saying I'm starting to think that each piece of data should have an app attached to it that can talk about itself.
Piece of data, define piece of data.
A transcript, for example, um, or an image, or a PDF, or a
And
database.
what's the advantage of allowing
The
it to talk?
the advantage is that because it knows itself but nothing else, it can answer really succinct questions to the higher level, saying, okay, so um, this news article, wrap it in a really thin nap, saying, okay, you've now got a nap asking in NL to another nap saying,
Yeah, okay, I get
hey,
that.
do you know
What's an
anything
what's an
about
what's a concrete example of a use case for that? What would be the messages? Not the hierarchy. What's the actual messages being passed?
well, you see the so what's that I made. This is where it comes
Yes.
from.
Yep.
So so what actually is only at the folder level. Now
Yep.
the and the reason for that
No, no, no.
is
Come on. I asked you a question and you're deferring. I
I know,
asked you
but
for
you're
concrete
yeah, man,
messaging.
you're talking over me. I was
No, you're not.
that
You're
wasn't
not.
even a comma. That wasn't even a comma.
No, you're not answering. You're not answering the question.
Okay, ask the question more precisely. Then I'll see what I can do.
Give me a concrete example of a set of messages that would be passed under this situation. So someone says, I want to know about Syria, and then it talks to the NAP that was a transcript of the news reading about Syria on Al Jazeera, for example. I want
Okay,
an example like
can
that.
I?
I want actual
Right.
stuff.
Well, that is just compilation. Um, I'll come into. I'll answer your question, but I can add to
Okay.
that. In that case, given a suitably large store, an app that knew what you already knew about Syria, so you're not just regurgitating, will go out and discover any other nap
Nope, that's still not
that
answering my question.
knows.
Why is that? Why is this hard?
I'm not saying it's hard. I'm saying it's just there.
Why are you not answering my question? I don't understand when that would be useful. You just said to me that you want to be able to wrap a nap around one of our conversations. Okay, we had a conversation earlier
Right.
today.
Okay.
Give me an
So
example message passing that would occur. How would you interrogate that exact thing?
I have. I'm writing a piece of work, and I want to know what the transition between the father and son of the Assad regime had to do with the Russians getting a warm water port, because I am very interested in this because I'm an analyst. And you know I'm an analyst already.
So how
That's
would
a
you
big
use this? How
setup.
would you use this setup? I'm still not seeing it.
Ah, damn. Okay.
Have you
It's
not? If
hard.
you don't have an answer
It's
for me,
it's
then I
it's
would
it,
argue that
it's
you don't know.
no, it's hard. I'm finding it difficult to express it properly. Um,
You wanted to wrap each conversation in a nap, and then you wanted to talk to
yes,
it in NL. And I'm asking a
yes.
very simple question. Tell me an example of a conversation you know of. Pick one, anyone, and tell me what questions you'd ask it.
Okay, so let's take it simple. Uh, you're talking to your top level business nap, and you say, has this company, its subcontractor, fulfilled its contract and has an invoice, and should I pay?
And now tell me how having one nap per conversation helps you solve that or answer that question, as opposed to walking through every conversation, reading it in and analyzing it from the point of view of the question that just got asked.
Because of context. Because remember uh, the one of the
Yeah,
agenda
so give
points
me, can you
I've
just,
just given.
all I want is just an
I've just given
example
you one. I've
message.
just given you one. Uh,
No,
given
the
that
message going to the nap that wraps the conversation. You have not given me that message example.
message sample, top level nap is my company CRM, let's
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
and I've just asked that exact question. I've just given the contract, given what's been delivered, uh, and given the invoice, should I pay?
yeah. And now one particular conversation that has occurred was wrapped in a nap. What did the top level nap say to the conversation nap?
Well, each of those four things, right?
Again, so it just
For
passed it down. Okay, so there's no point calling it a wrap nap in any way if it's just asking the exact same question again, right? You're all you're doing is running that question over the data, right?
yes, but
So it's not really wrapped in a nap then.
um, no, the point I'm getting is I give you a simple example and a very complex example. The complex example is hard. Simple example, you could easily do just with straight things, but
Right.
in the same way as wrapping an artifact tool in an app allows the AI, as it increases and progresses and is better and so on, to actually
Right.
use natural language and saying, look, can I please have a concat of anything with readme, which would
I'm
be a very
still,
simple
yep,
thing.
I understand that, but I don't get the point that you're driving at. I think I need to request you to write it down in reasoning
Yeah,
somehow,
yeah,
because
it's
like I've tried, and I can't see
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
distinction.
I think it's I do think it's I do think it's a fundamental thing.
Okay, then if it's that
But I will
important,
write it down. I'll write it down.
please write it down because I don't get it.
But the if we could take a kind of meta step up, what I'm trying to do is to think about. So we've been talking about how to use this in a social network where we can like link people with Overwatch and link people from what they're doing and saying,
Yeah.
hey, you should be talking to this guy and so on.
So
That's
yeah,
highly
so
complex.
lead introduction or
Right, right. You're
social
not
social social connection increaser.
exactly. You're not going to dump that into one context window.
No, absolutely not. That's a flutter of naps running constantly in the background.
Um,
That's almost a great candidate for batch processing on the OpenAI infrastructure.
It is, but also I think probably some kind of hierarchical processing where it's like, let's take first level, who could, who cares about Syria? I think, okay, these guys care about Syria. Why do they care? And you drill down, down, down.
All
The
right, that
the
this
AI
starts to
drills.
sound like designing the thing rather than talking about the need for the thing.
Well, this was my point, and I will write it down. But my point being, the knowledge architecture behind it, I think, is actually quite simple.
Yeah,
You
it's starting to feel. See,
you wrap each piece of data with
okay, are we talking about the
an
same thing? When you say knowledge architecture, is that the same as reasoning?
yes. Previously,
Why do you call it different?
um, we're wrapping up what we currently did or have done around reasoning, but then we wind it out to a social network.
So
Um,
we're also we're
but the
saying that the reasoning domains we are missing a couple. We need a social network domain. We
Yep,
need a watchtower domain.
yep.
And what was the other one?
We got reasoning watchtower, and then I think probably we've got
Project manager.
we've got project manager, and then we've got product. Um, so something that is more stable, and then these
No,
evals.
no. Those are different things. Those are different things. Product and evals are not um like a reasoning domain is something that needs to be built, whereas evals are like
Evals should also go. Okay.
yeah, I
What?
agree with you. I agree with you that they are a reasoning domain and they need to be there, but we're talking about different levels. I don't think there's any point talking evals to the social network is an implementation details. It's like unit tests are to Facebook. That's unit tests absolutely need their own reasoning and requirements and all that. But when you're talking about the model of Facebook at the level of we need a social network, tests don't even get a mention. Like that's the wrong level.
Yes, I'll give that for Facebook, but I think what we're talking about is you now trying to figure out what we're trying to do, and what I think probably we're both in agreement of. We're going to pop up and ask Pro and give it as
Yeah,
much information about what we should do.
yeah.
I think that in a kind of recursive way is also true all the way down.
C- correct. But I want to start at the top because I can't fit the top in my head alongside of everything all the way down. And
So,
whilst I don't know the correct answer for what we should do, I know that like evals and all that are not. It's not on the options list. Like that's definitely happening. That's not what I don't need o1 to tell me that, but I do need o1 to tell me should we be doing consulting for
well,
companies that are
here's a
knocking on the
thought.
door and
Here,
yeah,
here's a
I thought
here's a thought. Here's a thought. Right. And I think we're in kind of
yep, just spit it out, buddy. You don't need it.
we roaring agreement, going past each other. Let's pour useful information. Let's forget everything else we're doing. Pour useful information into Pro, and let's start in these conversations talking to Pro as to what we need to do.
Okay. So
How does it?
a format that is sort of funny that would do what we're doing
Yeah.
is that if we could set up a bot so that we could take this conversation, run it through o1-pro and
Yeah.
have it spit out a version where it inserted itself as a third person acting as a narrator, like how you get in, like some of those movies where it's like, and then it's like, it has like,
I see. It's like at this
it,
point, Scott went
right.
off on one, and he really should have shut up. What he
Yeah. And
really,
then it's
yeah.
like, and then we can even give it like a really David Attenborough voice. And then it's like, at this stage, the two humans have begun arguing about something that's utterly insignificant again. And so you can see that. And it,
This
like,
is part of their normal behavior.
yeah. And if we had a video that was
That's
that,
kind of kind of quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, what else is interesting, I'll tell you, is that as soon as the Sora API comes out, we can allow the narrator's voice to then generate some funny videos or diagrammatic videos of some stuff happening that it can splice into the stream, and it would actually be a funny thing to wake up and watch. You're like, this video, it's got some comical stuff, it's got some AI generated video that you're like, oh, that's cool. And then it's sort of like breaking down and analyzing the conversation that we had, because what we do know is that we can talk about the stuff that's important to each other quite well. Now,
Yes.
right? What we can't do is get it right, but we can definitely comment on or correct the renders that the bots are putting out. And so us being able to have these kinds of debates about what should we do next after O1 has already analyzed it seems valuable.
No, I agree. I mean, that would be an awesome Jiminy Cricket, wouldn't it? Sitting on our shoulder as we're having this conversation. Going.
I think we might need to ditch the real time thing, because what'll happen? All that'll happen is that O1 will become like it'd interrupt the natural flow between us.
Yeah, sure. We could do it afterwards.
But also o1-pro is probably going to be slow for the foreseeable future. And just like how since the dawn of computers, it's been a rule that the really fast computers are as big as a building, that has never changed. The buildings have gotten bigger, in fact. And so the current frontier smartest model on the planet is always going to be slow. That's just how it is.
Well, it's like the price of a laptop in real terms.
Sure.
It's never changed.
Sure. But the point is that having a conversation with you in real time and then processing it is what I think the most effective way to do the analysis.
What you're asserting there is there's always going to be a 30-second gap, and that's going to interrupt.
It kills it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, right.
So what to do, Maxwell? What to do?
Well,
what's an AI agent to do?
Well, here's a thought. Okay. All right. Pause.
Just say it. Yeah, the pause is cool.
I
know. Yeah, totally. Hey.
It would be a day's work max to get something that takes this transcript, interjects inside of the transcript, and then gives insights or sparkling, hey, you missed this, guys, for the next conversation. And then the next conversation, we do the same. That would be a start for 10.
Yep. And if we just keep doing that, that's just iterative refinement, and that gets better and better, right?
Well, assuming you and I are actually intelligent, which, we'll just assume, because that's our base assertion that we're smarter than bots.
I think that humans are good at recognizing when they're in a local minima. We naturally don't like it.
That's
right, and it's almost
a brilliant way of putting it.
It's almost like it's almost like we deeply believe that we're in a local minima. Like, no matter what, we will go looking for it.
Grumpy. We're like, grumpy.
Right?
It's got to be something better than this.
You're like, no, that can't be right.
Yeah,
like we always, right?
That is. Oh, I love that a lot. So go on.
So an O1 is probably susceptible to local minima, like all bots are. But also an O1 based system will always have some structure to it. Like it'll have like this piece talks to that piece that creates a plan that does these other things that comes back. It will always have oscillations where it can sort of oscillate between different states and feel like it's doing something useful, but really a human can spot that a mile away. You're like, mate, you just
Yeah.
went in a circle. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but the bots can't. So I don't think there's any point worrying about are we intelligent or not. The
Yeah, it's been privileged. Yeah, but yeah, or
I
facetious.
know, yeah, I know what you
Uh,
mean, but it's like what I do know is that we can recognize a higher intelligence than us. Now that whether that makes us smart or not doesn't matter. The outcome's the same.
mm,
Call on the higher intelligence to tell us what to do. If we are nothing else but earnest, we want to do the dream catcher. We want to do it efficiently. We want to do it of high quality. We want to do it quick. We want to do it without damaging people that we care about.
I think I could probably prompt up this for tomorrow, and we can give it a go based on this conversation. Let's just say,
Right.
just give it that because we've still got the context window problem, but we just assume that it's going to be fixed. Someone.
It's also not a problem. Like, where are you having a problem with it? Because I'm stuffing everything we've got into it. Where are you hitting it?
I'm hitting it in ingesting. Well, let's see. How long we've been talking recording? Um,
About an hour and a half.
no. I mean,
Oh, like
yeah,
for yeah, but hang on though. You're talking about ingesting everything ever all at once.
right.
That's
Yes,
not that's not useful.
yes, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well,
So you need to
it's not going to work. It's just
yeah,
not
yeah,
going to work.
but so that's where the first round of automation that I will have to build comes in because um you can ask a question and then run it through individually each transcript to get
Which,
an
which is
answer out.
which is the drill down. Which is why
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
going down the so what's. It's like
yeah.
so what's. I was like, oh, right,
And then
and
you
then
start rolling it up. So
roll it
another
way down.
example of this mechanism applies everywhere. And the fundamental principle is that no matter how smart an AI agent is, it can always be amplified by using concurrent hierarchy of calls to refine and repeat itself. It can always get better.
Yes.
It can always get better if it reevaluates what it does from multiple angles. It'll always come out better. That's like sending a student back to rewrite his essay. Even if you didn't read the first one, but you just said, this is rubbish, try again. The second one will be better. That's just how it is, right?
Yes.
And so the first mechanism that I'm seeing is I don't know how to describe it accurately, so if I may, I'll give a second example.
Mm-hmm.
This friend of mine posed a question about an insurance policy and a geotechnical report. And then the question was quite simple. Is the insurance company liable to pay? Second of all, what lines of argument might the insurance company try to get out of paying?
Mm-hmm.
Seems simple, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I can fit all the documents in the context window and get a result. But then, no matter what the problem space, I can always get problem space adjacent data. So one of the questions I added on was, what laws in New Zealand are relevant to this particular case? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
outcome 8 laws. So then that's the fork. That's the fan out. So what I would do with
Yeah.
the automation is I would ingest every law and put it against the source documents and ask the question again. Every law, every law, every law, every law. And then that might cause more fan out. And so that mechanism of fan out is what saves your context window. It's also essential for speed, but it's also excellent for quality. because fan in is the multiplier or the squeeze where you're wringing the intelligence together to just get the juice, just the absolute cream of the tokens come out.
I agree. I agree. And that is helpful when you've got a human driving it. I guess to refine what I'm saying about a knowledge structure is how do you get uh, a cron job to run that for you when there's no human to actually say, oh, okay, right, so you've just given me 8 answers. Take the first 4, and now I'm going
Yeah,
to
so
ask
that's
you
that's
to
the
go back.
automation that goes into Artifact. That's work that I have to do. That's definitely a job.
Okay, cool. I think we're converging on something. Okay, so okay, I'm going to bump up. Sorry for your stack. Going to bump up 2 or 3 layers here in asking you about whether what the angle I'm going down on this at the moment is each uh, logical chunk of data has. I've called it a so what. You're saying call it a README. It's like, yeah, fair. That's fine. But what that allows it, because the so whats have links, have hyperlinks between them, you can get reasoning going down, 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 and then going, yeah, okay, let's
Yeah.
try this one, try
Yep.
this one, and so on.
So you can walk. You can walk the
Yeah,
graph.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can walk the graph
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So,
But that's essential. That's essential. That's
okay,
part
good.
of that's how we amplify the AI. No matter
Right.
what base model comes out, we can always amplify it by walking the knowledge graph.
Yes.
And
Okay,
where
good.
possible, we will walk it in parallel.
Yeah, and sure, there's tools to either dynamically create these. They're not hard. They
Yep.
only take
Skip
a
it.
few
Skip it.
seconds.
Skip. Skip. Skip.
Um, but basically, what I wanted to check is that kind of that because that is very very fundamental about when we talk to an AI about anything.
Yep.
We're giving it a way of getting the a drill down of the context that you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, all the way down to base
Mm.
and all the way back up, and come back with something really quite precise.
Yep.
My question is that a good structure?
That's the only structure. That's the
Okay,
only structure. That's what Artifact
okay,
was designed for from the ground up. That's the
all
only
right,
structure
good, good,
that's ever
good,
been
good, good.
possible.
All right, that's good news. I think it is as well. Um,
Okay,
okay, so
so
given that, um, it's I was saying it's
given that that structure needs several things, it needs the ability to share it, and it needs the ability to have multiverse views on it, so that I can pass it to you. You can Twitter with it, play with it, all that. The ability to drive a reasoning system like Artifact, like the Dreamcatcher, really comes down to, like, I would say the Dreamcatcher is its best commercial face that it could put on is a reasoning system with a social network layered on top. And the purpose is that, or the value delivered is that anyone who has any kind of AI problem, we have learned the hard way that you need to start with reasoning. People of old called that the specification, and everyone loved to run away from it. But right, and even when they
yeah.
didn't run away from it, they got it wrong. And
Oh
half the
God,
time, the
I got a
problem
few
was,
scars on that one. Yeah,
yeah, because the company itself never had reached internal coherence to the point where they
exactly.
could output
Because
a
in order to
spec.
do a
Yeah,
specification, it's like, well, what do you want?
you need to
It's
be
like,
coherent. You need to be speaking with one voice, and that was actually the fault. And everyone's like, "Oh, okay, well, we can get started without that. Let's just get going." And then you just put like paint on cracked wood, and it just got worse and worse, and then it all falls apart, and everyone goes, "Complexity." It wasn't complexity. It was lack of coherence. It was the fact
exactly,
that
exactly.
your internal
Correct, complete, and
consensus was faulted.
coherent. Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so all we've done is come full circle around and say that you need to get your spec right. AI has made it so that the toil doesn't hide the lack of direction anymore, right?
Okay,
Like
I would.
if you were building the pyramids, you would have, and because you do rant sometimes, I'm gonna have a rant.
Okay,
If
I was
you were
about to pick
building,
you up on that one.
yeah. But come on, I'm cashing in my chips here. If you were building the pyramids because the toil was so hard, that's probably the only reason why you got away with not being like, what are we doing this for? Right? But now that all the toil appears to have been gone, or it may not have been gone, but people can believe that it will be gone soon, now suddenly it becomes important to know what you're doing at the top level and reach internal coherence. And what I put to you, Maxwell, is to sell the service. First and foremost, what the Dreamcatcher can offer you is the ability to have a human who knows how to do reasoning help you, or basically a network of humans who know how to do reasoning, help you do your reasoning because you haven't done it. You wouldn't be worried if you'd done it.
Ah, man. Okay, so that was quite a sharp target shift. I think I might have a groin strain now. Okay, so uh, yes, I will make an assertion. Um, uh, Other than the tools to just automate it, I think our knowledge structure doesn't need any more work for now. We'll see. Um, then popping right back up to the top. Uh, the the fact that we've gone through the fires in order to get here means that we've got valuable information to give to anyone who is currently sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, o1-pro. Okay." So just gonna, what do I do? Type in. I'm just gonna give it everything,
Yeah.
and so on.
Um,
And that
can I
is,
jump in?
uh,
We finish. Can you finish quicker?
I can finish quicker. I think that's where the cache is short term.
Okay, great. I will o1-pro is the smartest machine anyone's ever seen. It's also maybe one of the most expensive. And selling people access to those tokens at a small margin, given that they need to spend a lot, is a really good thing for business. And I'll tell you why.
Mm.
Let me just try and shorten down. I was about to do a story too. Let me try shorten it right down.
I'm
That's good
pausing
for
a lot now.
business. That's good for business because if the amount of tokens you burn as a novice, like let's say we open up the tools to anyone to come and play with and do reasoning, we
Mm.
have the classic use case shining bright of so and so saved $1 billion because of their reasoning, right? The reason, exemplary reasons of what reasoning could be.
Mm.
You come in and you burn enough tokens that you maybe could have like done something better with that money, and then we know that you're gonna get to the point where you're like, fuck, I didn't get what I wanted. I spent a lot of money. I see a lot of potential. What to do now? And at that point, you're gonna wish, or you're gonna think that it was actually cheaper to pay for someone who knew what they were doing to operate the machine to give you what you want because it's so expensive. Like what I'm trying to get at here is that the price of O1 is great for us because if the price of O1 was free, you could just keep going and you wouldn't care to be like, I better ask someone who knows what they're doing. But when you get like a really expensive CNC machine or a really expensive mainframe, you kind of suddenly you're like, I'm gonna get a professional because they either might break it or they, like I might break it or I'm wasting valuable time.
Yes, I mostly agree.
Yeah.
With a few caveats in that I don't think tokens in the terms of any kind of decently sized company is anything even close to whatever they're paying, their accountant.
No, but there's
But
another trend. There's another trend happening, Maxwell. AI
mm,
is gonna just get more and more expensive. Like everyday AI is gonna get cheaper for more, but frontier AI is gonna get more and more expensive because it's gonna get better and better, so it's more valuable, and the value is finally recognized as opposed to some gimmicky chatbot. And probably the resources to run it are gonna get more and more expensive.
no, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I'd like the point I was making is almost superfluous, really. But I'll make it anyway. In that the value is not in reducing token cost. It's in the impact of the outcome of what you're using it with.
Yeah, that's that's what I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to say that being
You
able to
didn't say that.
steer the token output is valuable too. And so long as the cost of the tokens is comparable to the cost of the person, you won't mind paying for the person.
Um,
When if the cost of the tokens was free, you would
yeah,
mind
no,
paying
that's
for the
true. But I
person.
don't understand where you're going with that, though.
I'm saying that the face of the Dreamcatcher, the commercial offering that we should launch with, is reasoning as a service. A bunch of people with different skills who can reason about different things, driving this beast of a machine on behalf of to help people. You tell me that people are knocking on a door saying, "What do we do about AI?" And we're like, "Well, how much money have you got? And what do you want to know?" And we're like, "Well, how are we giving them value?" Like all these questions, right? But if we started off as a reasoning engine where it's like human experts in a network offering fair pricing to
No, that
help
works.
you reason, right? Because we're saying that actually, once all the code is written, once all the Wikipedias are scraped, what remains is reasoning. What remains is, what the fluff are you doing? What are you doing?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm asking that question because I feel like I have imagined myself to the end of the race prematurely, might add, but not incorrectly. And I'm saying, what are we doing? What are we doing? Right? And developing the tools to be able to answer that and keep on answering it, to have a model that keeps on going, that's value.
I agree. Okay, so let's take my assertion as read. May not be correct, which is having this drill down way is a good way of talking to bots. Um,
It's the only way we agreed.
yes. So let's take that as read. Then what you're saying there is, given monkey brain chaotic company, um, the service is, well, let's hone your bots using, sorry, hone your reasoning
Yeah,
based on our reasoning tools,
yeah.
and
Well,
then the bots
yeah.
just fall out. It's just like
It's a yeah.
just going to get
We
better and
we
better.
give we give you the reasoning tools, and you can use them as a software product. But attached to that is a marketplace of humans whom you can select from that can help.
Which is the social
Yeah,
networking
which can
part.
help
Yeah.
you use this thing. And why I like that model is that if we build the watchtower, the introducer, or the whatever we call those components, those top level networking components, then having this selling things within it, which is like, oh, you've got some hard AI problems, let me help you out. That's maybe the first useful thing, because you want to induct people into the network so that now they're using the watchtower, they're using the social network, they're using these other things, and we're also offering a service which is, we will help you reason and leave you with the platform. Like, you become a fully fledged member of the platform as a side effect that can do lots of useful things anyway.
Well,
We just
given that
help
we're
you with the hardest thing.
given the work that you've done with the artifact and also the tools that you've now got in order to generate new artifact tools, given the work that I've done on the knowledge base, I don't think we need anything more in order to do exactly what you say, except marketing, outreach. It's like
We don't
getting
need
people to
that.
know we're
It's
here.
coming to us. It's coming to us, and it's coming to us more
Yeah.
than we more than we can handle. So that's not a problem.
Um. Well, number one, yes. It is coming to us like a deluge right now. Number two, if we're still in the loop, then we are limited on it, and so we need that social network.
So what are we to do, Maxwell?
I knew you were going to say that. Why are you always asking me what to do? I don't know. Right.
Well,
Okay. So let me give a shot of it. Um, I think the number one thing to do is
you know why I'm
take.
asking you, Maxwell? Because you never
Mm,
ask me.
well, I'm about to ask you at the end of this. This is I'm being kind to you. I will give you my
No, you
starting
never.
time.
And it is actually an issue. You never ask me because you're quite happy where we are.
No, I'm not happy at all with where we are. Um, the reason being, over the last week, our target has shifted what 3 times.
Well, if we wrote our target down,
Right,
maybe
that's the point. Well, that's the point. Okay, so um, the I'm,
the
I tend to be a
selection and
solution.
maintenance of the aim should
I
be.
tend to be a solutioneer. Every time there's like a question, try and answer it. But that being said, if we were to get this conversation at the very least into an o1-pro.
I mean, yeah. Look, I'm gonna tell me if I'm wrong about my assumption about what you're gonna say. If we
Yeah.
just keep grinding over this same problem without giving up on it, and then keep feeding that into O1 and trying to extract out from it meaningful things, both from our insight and processing it and from O1's knowledge and reasoning skills, and we just keep, then we take what we found, go over it again, again and again. Eventually, surely we must either get the answer or go mad, right?
No, no, that's completely wrong. That's not what I was about to say.
Well, ignoring that, is it the right thing to do?
Well, let's compare and contrast. What I was going to say is um, we need real world examples
Yes.
to do. I think we could probably do that now.
I retract that. I don't think we need real world examples on what to do. I think that we can internally reason our way to figure out what to do because we know when we don't know what we're doing, which is now. And we know a path by which we can gain more insight into what we're doing. And so I don't think we need to
I
do
would, I
the
would,
external.
I would, I would love to do just one external because I think we'd learn a chunk.
Well,
Um,
I'm unhappy about that because I can see that O1, with our constant, unwavering attention, can get us O1 project management or the selection and the maintenance of the aim being handled by O1 when taking on an external example will delay us from having that
why would it delay us?
because it isn't focusing on that. Because
Um,
I feel like there's a path that I just laid out there that can get us to a commander, an autonomous commander that knows what we should be doing and can argue about it.
well, this is interesting because previously, when we discussed about a month ago, um, our mode of operation where I'm theoretical and you're practical, I
That
think we've
wasn't
just
ever that
switched.
no, that was never what we said. You were the reasoner.
Right. And what I'm saying now is actually,
I've caught you up.
um,
I think without really noticing. Hey,
sorry, say again, sorry?
I've caught you up
I
because
think
I've overcome the code problem.
I think you have. I think you have. And this is
This is the friction,
n-
right? Because now I'm
now.
like, hey, buddy.
Well, the thing is, weirdness. You've caught me up at the point where I'm thinking, I know the knowledge structure that would be until proven wrong.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah,
This is the way we should do it.
yeah.
You've come up with your own on the artifact side with your process using NL, and you're thinking, I could basically make anything you want, just describe it. And it's like, I don't have anything more to describe because I've got the knowledge and so on. The reason I'm saying it would be useful to have at this point something to do because we can test both our assumptions.
No, absolutely not. That's not testing my assumptions in any way. That's not making O1 a commander. Isn't there a large chunk of work ahead of you to make O1 a commander?
Well,
Because you don't. I mean, you don't have it now. You can theorize about it, but you could get it to 80% in a day. But we don't need 80%. We need 100.
oh, I see what you're saying. I'm thinking 80% is just so obvious.
Yeah, it is obvious. I can see it.
Um,
That's not what
yeah.
we need. I don't want to be
Okay.
commanded by an 80%
All
O1
right.
bot.
Okay. So, Thompson, what do I do today?
You should take this transcript and you should figure out some way to get O1 to lay the groundwork for how O1 can be our commander, for how O1 can be in charge of the selection and maintenance of the aim. And then once you've done that, we will have a talk about it again in this same format and we will iterate on it until we get it to 100%. Tell me what's wrong with that.
Pause. It'd be a shitty version, but yeah. We don't know. What we're trying to figure out is what we should be spending our time on. That's the question
Correct.
that's been coming up again and again, which is to do with priorities.
Correct.
Fine. What we're saying is let's get a tool to tell us what our priorities are.
Correct.
Um, I don't know. I don't need to do anything more than you know ingesting context. So we give this AI some chance of figuring out what the fuck we've been talking about.
No, but
Um,
what always happens is whenever you set about these tasks, you find maybe 3 to 6 different approaches that could have worked, and then we believe that those cover the whole space. Like a 100% solution will fit somewhere within that range of prototypes, but we don't take it home. We need to take this one home.
what does home look like?
Home means to 100%. Home means
What's
to operational.
Yes, but that's no. You're just replacing one word for another there. Specifically, what would a tool look like?
Tell me what
Describe.
80% means then.
80% would be we've got a screen up with an O1 there with our previous day's conversation, access to our conversations over the last month that you and I can talk to, ask questions of, take that transcript into the next day's version of the same tool. That would be 80%.
Why don't we start with that?
Cool. All right.
Because what I can see happening there is, if I may offer a partial solution,
Mm-hmm.
is that at the end of each day's transcript, there would be some kind of a formatted output, which would be like an update to some tasks, an addition to some tasks, the creation of some tasks. Some definitions were changed, something, this and that, right? And so there's almost like this summary of each day's transcription that when you look at them all together, they first of all fit in a context window. They fit the analysis pattern of the drill down, I think you were calling it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can output a current thing like, what is person X working on? Those kinds of things, right? And I believe that you will find there is a small countable number of things to track, like how many reasoning domains do we have? Which one is the most important? Which ones depend on other ones? Where are we at with each one, right? And you can start to build up a structure of a format that takes shape over time. You will start to understand what types of questions do you want from this commander? How do you want to engage with it? Right? Like there's a lot of things I can see taking form here.
Okay.
Tell me then, what would be more important than this thing?
This is it's actually the thing that's at the top of my stack at the moment, anyway.
Bro,
Although
but
there was a subpart.
why were you adamant about having a crack at dealing with an external use case without this tool?
Because our conversation, let's say we had this tool, let's just assume that.
Yeah.
Our conversation is still quite high level. Now,
Right.
As a kind of practical engineering type, it's like, well, we might be wrong. Let's try it.
There's no use case that I can imagine that anybody could bring us that would test out these theories. What I would suggest, if that is your concern, and it is a valid one, is to try and use o1 to generate a set of proving, what do they call them? Proof runs. You won't, all the problems that people are coming to us with are classical problems. We have I don't feel very grateful, but I know I should be grateful. We have inference level problems. We have problems about what happens when the AI is one more year smarter. We have those kinds of problems. And so coming up with proofs to know whether our assumptions are correct, we can only get that from synthetic scenarios, from o1.
Okay. No, that works.
Right?
By testing it practically, synthetic also works.
Yeah, right. So that's different. No use case that someone comes to you is going to solve that. The CRM provides a very good practical test case for the code itself. That almost feels done now. Like I'm like, that's actually, I think that's pretty straightforward now.
Yeah.
But that's different because the level that we're talking about is like existential level.
So the only difference between that and what was implying in terms of testing it is the test. Now, where the data comes from
It's a
can
pretty
come
big
from
difference,
real
buddy.
world or synthetic. There's
Yeah.
no difference between real world and synthetic, really.
Yes, there is. There's a huge difference. We can't.
No,
I guarantee you that you couldn't get real world data that match the synthetic type that we need in this case because
no, that's
the whole thing's theoretical.
okay. No, I disagree on that one because you could easily and
No,
have done, of course.
I just see no value in that argument.
Yeah. But the point being, you're saying, okay, so let's test it. Well, what I'm saying is, let's test it against something concrete to see how we use this. Now, we've got a number of things we could test. This AI overlord is going to be telling us. We could test it concretely against the construction of the AI overlord. We can test it concretely against the construction of the Dreamcatcher. We could test it concretely against the construction of a CRAM using the Dreamcatcher. All these things. Now, you're saying, hey, let's just synthesize each of these tests. I'm saying we need to test. Because otherwise, it's just a conversation between you and I.
You lost me, buddy.
Okay, well, let's just
So
roll with that.
all I was asking was, what's more important? Why did you want a real world test? And you're saying, well, we need to test the thing. And I'm like, well, the thing's not even defined
Yeah.
really. So we've
Okay.
just picked one component of this, which is the overlord.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm like, well, if we start with just that one overlord part, I can immediately see that our lives will get better.
Okay. So what I'm arguing is we need to test it against something. We can't just theorize our
Test
way
what?
out of
Test
this.
what?
In this case, the AI overlord you just described.
Where are the tests, dude? I will know when that thing works or not. Won't you?
You don't, we need to we need to test it.
Won't you? Won't you know when this thing's working or not? Because I damn well will.
Well,
Who else are you making
no.
it for? If not for us.
All right. Well, we'll see if it works for you, but it doesn't work for me. How are we going to tell? What we're going to be
Won't
talking
you
about?
know? You'll be like, oh, it doesn't work for this and that, and then we loop it again. And then we both try and come up with fixes for it.
All I'm saying is, you can go so far in theory.
Yeah, but what's the point of that? It's like saying like E equals MC squared. Of course.
Yes, but you're saying, let's
Dude,
not do tests.
I just want the overlord. I will know when it works. You will know when it works. Let's keep going until it works.
Okay, let's roll with that because it's only a day, right?
Well, it could be a month actually.
Well, it's only a period of time. Probably quite a short one.
So we'll get So we'll get our 80% version tomorrow, and then we'll iterate on it again. Maybe next time it's 85.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Let's do that. I've already I'll not go back through the structure of it. The structure of it is pretty easy. It will, however, unfortunately, because Cursor doesn't allow currently Pro in there,
Yeah.
it will be a cut and paste backwards and forwards job.
Yeah, well, mate, that's what I have to do. I've been cutting and pasting like crazy.
Hey, man.
It's just like...
Yeah, sorry, man. All due respect, don't talk to me about cut and pasting. Yes. I've been bleeding from my eyes with cut and pasting. Honestly.
What do you want me to do, dude? This time it's not my fault. Like, we don't have the AI. We don't have the API for the AI. It's just copy paste. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's go with that then. So
tell me what you think I'm doing then.
I think you are working on using the processes that are leveraged by Pro to get a NAP to ask another NAP a question and get an answer back. That's what I think you're working on.
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
Cool.
Before that, though, I'm doing chat downloading. Is that correct?
No, that's... why are you doing that?
So that we can store these chats and process these chats, because they're not currently...
that's not fundamental. That
Isn't it though? Like, because how do I want to reason about the chats? How do I get them down so that I can actually use
I've got
them?
a process that I usually have a cup of tea and a couple of digestive biscuits while I put it through a YouTube extractor because it can't be asked.
No, the chats, the o1-pro chats.
Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. There's no practical workaround for that one. That would be
Okay.
a very useful tool. That
Okay,
would be
so
a
I'll make
useful tool.
that, and I think that's
Yeah.
about. It's probably about 2 hours as opposed to
Okay.
30 minutes, just because it accidentally ends up triggering moderation from o1-pro. That's the only
So,
reason.
okay, that
Because it
takes a
thinks I'm
long
trying
time.
to it thinks I'm trying to figure out how it does its reasoning in the
Uh,
background, which is I mean I that's fine. You could if OpenAI want to protect that, perfectly fine. But I'm not trying to get at that. It's just that the words sound the same because it's like
uh,
reasoning, blah
well,
blah blah.
just a word of caution on Sora, because I was getting a bit grumpy because I
Mm,
wanted to have a wee play of Sora, and it's not in the UK.
no,
So I thought, I'll just throw up a VPN, and then got a quite a strongly worded message saying, "Don't do this, we'll ban you." So be careful, don't get banned, because we've
oopsie.
built up quite a lot of, kudos
Yeah,
in our usage.
that's the issue though. ChatGPT's design is not sticky because if I get banned, so long as I've got an export of my data, which I would have if I built the chat tool as well, I do periodically export my data. I
Uh-huh.
can just start a new account and then I'm back where I started. That's why their platform doesn't have stickiness, it has attraction,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah,
different.
but it is a pain in the arse, though, isn't it? I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I backed well off the Sora thing, saying I was just looking
Yeah,
for
yeah. So
like a
I just want to put it out there that you need to watch out because they are product people at heart from living in the Valley of San Francisco, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
will be trying to make this sticky as well as attractive. They've gone
yeah,
with attractive first. That's what they all do. Sticky's coming, so we just gotta be able to detach at the right
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Okay, so tomorrow what I'm doing is I'm making the chat downloader so that we can ingest our own o1-pro conversations.
Yep.
And
And
then I'm working on the components required to make one nap call another nap in natural language.
yes, and
Yep.
I'm working on the reasoning that allow us with cut and paste to have a screen up here for this next conversation where we're talking about something, and that something I think should be this conversation and say the conversations we've had over the last few weeks.
I don't get that. I thought we were talking about you were making the overlord.
Yeah, yeah, that is overlord. So we're talking to an overlord who's been prompted to keep us on task, to remind us, to
Oh,
support what
right,
we're.
right, right, right. I was imagining our next call would go not me talking to the overlord, although that's, if you have something ready, we can definitely do that. But I was more imagining it would be us talking about the structure of the overlord, how you went about it, what some of the issues are, and all that as the next range of iteration.
Very possibly.
Either
That's
way,
something.
we can just meet up. We'll meet up next call and we'll go over the overlord in some capacity,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And for me, I'll turn up and you'll have the ability to archive your chats or ingest your o1-pro chats, and partially I'll have something to say about the naps because I now have to reason through the naps design, and it would be good to chat with you about that because I find it much easier to discuss and expand on a specification when I'm talking to you or someone else suitably intelligent to sort of question. Intelligent but naive is actually a really good conversation partner because you
hmm
have to explain it to them and they ask natural questions in natural order. Whereas, as I've worked with this for so long, I no longer am natural.
yeah, yeah. That's always the curse of being too
Yeah,
deep in the weeds, isn't it?
yeah. And so that's
Yeah,
actually a really useful way to extract out better information. So I can have that kind of chat with you and then I can use that to push forwards my own efforts.
yeah. Cool. Let's do that. Okay, right. So
All
we've
right,
got a plan.
we got a plan.
What is it today?
What? It's Saturday for me.
Okay, it's
For you, it
Saturday.
should be Saturday.
Okay, yeah, I think it is. Sorry, I'm losing track a bit. Um,
I'll
okay,
stop the recording, huh?
Yeah.